Deborah, thank you for joining me today. You're part of our story today, where we're going to just get to know the people of East Wind. And you and I shared a life group. So I've had a chance to have a few members from our life group in and just want to kind of talk about why and what that looks like. And you've been such an inspiration to me because of the way I've watched you jump in. I mean, I've been inspired to follow Jesus through watching you. So before we get into that, I just want you to introduce yourself. Not everybody knows you. You joined East Wind during the pandemic. So introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll talk about life groups.
Okay. My name's Deborah, and I'm from Colorado originally and moved to California, where I met my husband and where we ended up having 3 boys in 2 years. So that was my first quarantine. That's when I call it my first quarantine, when I only went to the grocery store for a year. And we kind of got out of the really heavy lifting younger years of the children's life and decided that living in a place that would be more able to roam and more activities that the state provides in the city would be a better fit for our family. So we packed up and we moved here in July.
Yeah, well, welcome. I met you in July, and it was a bold move. You could have just stuck with Colorado the whole time, but you added the California piece in there, which is great. A little shout out to Josh for that one. But so you got this family, these 3 boys. If people couldn't do the math, there's twins involved there. Otherwise, you're a miracle worker. So we've got these 3 boys, this marriage, you relocate, this new life, outdoor adventure, and you find this church, Eastwind. And you were in a life group this last fall. In a very short time, you went from showing up on a Sunday, meeting some people, to saying yes to like weekly being in community. Tell us why. Let people know, like, why would you do that? You're not exactly sitting home going, what do I do with all my extra time?
Yes, well, other than an escape from the kids, which isn't the true reason why, but I had participated as a churchgoer for my adult life at a church that was great, but I didn't ever participate in it. I was regularly attending, but I didn't really feel like I was part of the church. And anytime they announced life groups, I would see the announcements and there would be the sign-up periods, but it didn't dawn on me to ever sign up because I thought that other people were part of the church and I just was an unseen participant. And it wasn't until I joined Mothers of Preschoolers, otherwise known as MOPS, that I was part of a group that was affiliated with a church where I was invited, I was seen, I was recognized. And when they pitched life groups at the church associated, it was so much easier to say yes because I already knew people who were going, and I wasn't waiting for the invitation. It just felt like I should naturally go with my friend who's in that group. And so when I was leaving, when I left California, I had just joined that group of women and the church and the small groups and found kind of my place. And I knew leaving that was going to be hard. And so my goal was when I got here to jump right in. And so I found MOPS, which is associated, the Southeast branch is associated through MOPS or Eastwind. So I found Eastwind because of MOPS, and there were barbecues that I just jumped right in when the summer started. And I watched your sermon online and I was like, okay, I like this church. And it was going. It was like a church that you could actually participate in going to. So I just decided to start going and immerse myself. And again, my goal was to get involved, not to just be a passive participant and just watch church go by again. And when I saw you guys were doing life groups, I was ready to keep moving forward despite everything else shutting down. My life had been shut down in previous years. So I was ready to, in any way I could, move forward and get that connection in the community and just really that spiritual piece too of being connected with other Christians.
Let me jump on that piece, like that spiritual piece. So you've taken those steps into community, being with other moms who are raising preschoolers, moving from being sort of an observer. And I love how you said it wasn't that you wanted to be an observer. It just felt like there was a group who was kind of in, and then you were not in that group. And so making that decision to say yes to community, how, like our mission is to inspire people to follow Jesus and deepen their faith and relationship with him. How does a life group play a key part in that? There's so many ways we can discover God. But how for you has a life group played a role in deepening your faith and relationship with Jesus?
It took me from being a surface churchgoer and doing, well, in MOPS, they call it momming alone. You don't want to do that. And I realized I was churching alone and I was kind of lifing alone. And what life groups brought me was this center place where you can be in a community of people who encourage you, comfort you, listen to you, pray for you. And then all of a sudden you're not doing these things alone. And it just deepened my faith. And it took me to a different level of community involvement because there were opportunities to then serve at the other church and then in this life group as well. So you're getting involved in another place where you're being invited. Any of us could volunteer anytime, but it helps when you're being invited and you feel like you're included. So it brought me from churching alone and following God alone to the richness that's involved when we do it together. And the biggest part I was missing out of churching alone was God speaks to us through other people. And without finding an intimate group of people that you can talk about God, learn about God, ask the big questions, pray for each other, you're missing an opportunity where God can speak through other people in your life and where other people can pray for you.
Yeah, that's so good. Churching alone, being alone, like versus like together, which is so in the heart of God. To be together in community. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to close. I got an interesting question for you. It's about being a mom and raising kids today. And so anybody watching, they may not be a mom, but we all know somebody who is. What would you like people to know about how they can support moms raising young kids? Just educate us, inform us. I think it's important we could know this.
Oh gosh, that's a big question because a mom in 2020 requires a science degree, a medical degree, a teaching degree. Yeah, it's complicated. And oftentimes you feel alone. So encouraging moms to find a group like MOPS. It's not required that you're religiously affiliated. So although you're listening to this because you're in church and you're religiously affiliated, it's easy to bring people in. It's one of the places where the barrier to get in doesn't mean you have to be a Christian, but it was just a wonderful place to have support. So encouraging women to find a mom group where they're not momming alone. And another way to encourage them, gosh, I just ask them if you can help. Yeah.
And that's all. I mean, I'm almost asking that because I know you and I'm asking for you in a way. Like, I want your church, this church, Eastwind, to be a place where all people, but I'm talking to a mom today, where moms say, I'm seen. They know my story and I'm invited to know Jesus and I don't have to be perfect doing it. So thanks for sharing that. I think great introduction to MOPS. I hope any moms listening would reach out. We'll give some information about that. And thanks for being here today. I so appreciate you. You're very wise. You bring a lot of joy and you have jumped in. And I think anybody who wants to experience the full life Jesus has to offer, they just like followed your steps and just jumped in, they wouldn't regret it. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Yeah, if people are waiting for the invitation, here it is. Just jump in. And you're the only one holding yourself back from having a surface church experience to a really enriching church experience. And we all have that comparison we have in our mind of like, oh, well, those people go to that group and I'm not really part of that. And comparison is natural, but what we do with that really limits how much we get to engage. So just jump in, say yes. If you don't like it, the caveat in our group was you can stop coming after day one if this is weird for you or you don't like it. So it's not like you're signing a contract.
Oh, cool. Thank you.